Thank you, Colleen. Over a year ago, one of the most horrific mass shootings in the DMV took place at the Capital Gazette in Annapolis. A widow of one of the slain reporters took on the challenge of finishing her husband's book, which she now calls a 300-page love letter.
Well, he talked about starting this book a lot over the years, and it became evident to me that it was partially written in his head a long, long time ago.
McNamara started thinking about the book in 2007 when his friend and longtime high school basketball coach Bob Dwyer died. John was on the brink of finishing the book when he died in the Capital Gazette shooting last year. Can you remember the first conversation you two had about this book, and what were his dreams and goals for it?
In 2007, Bob Dwyer died, and he was a longtime coach of Archbishop Carroll. He had a 55-game winning streak. He had developed NBA players and people who went on to do wonderful things in their community. And John was in despair. He said, "I can't write my book now without Bob Dwyer."
Chamblee says she wasn't allowed in John's office, nor did he allow her to see his work. It wasn't until
I needed to put his ashes somewhere. I had this beautiful urn that happens to be in yellow and red, and I went to put it in his den. And I saw these 3 boxes of files, and everything was organized by year and by school and by player.
While going through those files,
and I saw how far along he was. He had done a chapter on the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and most of the 90s.
Based on John's written outline, she wrote the first chapter with help from a family friend and previous co-author, David Elfin.
For the first chapter, I wrote the first sentence of the first chapter, and David Elfin wrote the last sentence of the first chapter, and John wrote the middle.
And so they began filling in the gaps, which took time.
The government was closed for 6 weeks that year, right around the holidays, and we're not allowed to work. So I realized that was a gift of time to work on that book.
You say that you were conflicted, even wanting to do this. What were those conflictions for you?
As I worked on it, I told people and I asked for help. People said, "Do you feel John's presence?" And I realized, no, I feel his absence. I feel his absence. I'm not sure if he wanted the first sentence to sound like that.
The uncertainty forced her to be careful. She says she wanted to make him proud.
Working on this book has given me a focus, and frankly, I have to recognize it's given me a diversion. And I think once the flurry is over, I'm going to have the rug pulled out from under me.
And as the trial for the shooter Jared Ramos approaches, she says there can no longer be justice for John or his colleagues.
There can only be justice for the people that we intervene and prevent it from happening to them. We have to wake up and realize it's happening to 100 Americans a day who could die from gun violence. They don't all make the news.
And as a member of an organization for gun violence survivors,
and I think it's time for people to take notice of the single moms who are raising the rest of their kids after losing one, the domestic violence victim who's got lead poisoning from the bullet they can't take out of her body, to the kids who are afraid to go to school. Chamblee was given the plaque that sits in the press boxes both at the Xfinity Center and the football stadium here on campus. And she says, along with devoted friend and sports writer, which are on the current plaque, it originally said devoted husband as well. And Chamblee was the one who urged them to get rid of the devoted husband because she says she knows that he was. He wanted to be known as a sports writer, and she's glad that she was able to continue his legacy through this book.